Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 102.3. So today we're going to use the Festive Cane to put into a festive ornament. And it's a tiny ornament, but it still is beautiful and really eye-catching. And I just wanted to share the finished product with you guys real quick and to show you how I put the ribbon through. And it's super simple. I have about 2 feet of ribbon here that I have made into a loop and then pushed through the center and the top bead. So you see this top bead is just kind of free floating there. Now the bottom bead, I went ahead and got the ends of my ribbon and pushed them through the hole of the bead and then pulled these through and then made a knot. So hopefully it will be easy to follow along and make this simple ornament. Thank you all so much for joining us this year. Thanks for watching and just all your comments and everything. It's just been incredible. We hope you all have a safe and wonderful holiday out there. And on that note, we'll see you next year in the dungeon. Okay, let's go ahead and start this ornament bead out by heating up the mandrel and adding a whole bunch of white glass. And I'm looking to add about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of glass on this. I want a nice long mandrel to really show off the cane that we made last week. And what I'm going to do here is just start to add my white glass, and I'm going to run it all the way down the length of my mandrel. And while I do this, notice that I'm also heating up my mandrel as I go in the front, and that will help me not to get any bubbles rising up from the bead release into my glass. And I was happy I didn't get any bubbles this time, but if you do, no problem, go ahead and roll them out and pop them and continue. I'm just going to add a little bit extra white glass here where I think I need to, and then I'm just going to heat everything up. And you know, when you're heating up a really long bead like this, it's nice to heat on an angle or on the bias here, and you'll get a lot more of it hotter quicker. So I'm just going to start out like always by rolling the bead out from the center all the way out to the edges, getting it nice and even, and then I'll focus on the edges and just give each edge a nice, just slight taper. I'll work my way to the other end, taper that side as well. And of course, you're always keeping your glass nice and warm in the heat as you are figuring out what to do next. So next, what I want to do is I want to enhance this shape a little bit by adding some white glass to just the center. And that will give me a nice little bulky part, and it'll help me in my final shape as well. Just right here in the center. Of course, you can make your bead any shape, any size you want. But here, I'm just going to heat everything up until it gets nice and smooth like this. And I'm not going to roll it out. I'm just going to start right here. And I will start by using the Triton blue from Double Helix. What an amazing color this is. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to add 2 stripes of the blue here, one on either side. I mean, I'm going to end up with 4 stripes, so you can just lay down 4 stripes. I just want to lay down the first 2 and I kind of, you know, am thinking about things the whole time I make them, like, am I going to add more? You know, it's like everything is off the cuff here. So I want to heat this in, and notice how the white glass discolors a little bit. All that is the silver from the blue glass fuming onto the white glass. So it's normal to see that happen. All right, so the other blue stripes are in there, and now what I want to do is start to heat up my edges again and go ahead and smooth those out. This is going to become kind of like a bicone shape, and that will make things easier for me to apply the cane to. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes to heat up both edges and to taper them slightly. Make sure that this shape is nice and even before you start to lay your cane down. Okay, so I'm going to start out with, I think this is the the Helix cane or the Ballotini cane. And this cane was a lot thicker than I thought it was going to be. And so when I add the cane to the bead, it took several minutes to just get this one stripe down. So just be aware that it's going to take time for you to lay this cane down depending on the thickness of the cane. I'm just going to very gently flatten that bit down a little bit so it's secure to the end of my bead. And then give it a bit of a heat, and we're going to move on to the opposite side where I'm going to use the spiral or the threaded twisted cane. And I think this is my favorite one out of all of them. This twisted cane looks so cool. And of course I put it off center, so I'm just going to spend a second to push it where I need to. You can use a knife. I was just using the razor blade tool there, and then I'll finish up by gently squeezing it back into a nice straight line. If you don't get it in a perfect line, that's okay. Get it as close as you can and move on. Okay, these other two sides are going to be the ribbon cane. You know, I have to say, it's so bizarre to see how different these canes look, especially the thinner threaded canes look completely different in the hot glass than when it did in the final picture of the last demo. It's just crazy. So I never would have suspected it to look so different. But the sparkle's in there, and that's really all I care about. I just have to have that sparkle. It's so pretty. It looks great on this dark background too, the goldstone. Okay, I have one more cane to apply. And when I apply these, I do take my time. I want to make sure that the bottom part of the bead is hot and it allows that glass to kind of stick to it as you're heating it and laying it down. You're not swiping it on, you're laying it down. There's a big difference. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is straighten things up a little bit more, and I have to go through this process of now melting all of this in and flattening it all down to the underbead, and it does take time. You don't want to just heat this thing up and roll it out. You want to coax everything down and flatten it very gently, and take your time doing this. So I'm focusing all my heat on one cane at a time here, and I will very gently flatten it with the butter knife. And I'm not really pressing down very hard. I'm just gliding my knife along the top of the cane, and you see it does spread out quite a bit. So I'm going to do this on every cane that I have, and I'll end up doing it twice, because when you flatten something down once and then you heat it up, it tends to want to round out again. So I usually do this flattening 2 or 3 times just to get the profile of the cane as low as I can to the underbead. And everything will look a lot better. It'll look more professional, and you'll be able to see all the cane in there if you do it this way. You just don't want to overheat anything at this point. Okay, I'm just continuing to flatten everything down, and I'll eventually get to the point where I feel like the profile of these canes are low enough to where I can just start to gently heat the whole bead up and start to roll it out, which is right here. So this I like. Everything is low enough to where all you need to do is just give it a little extra heat and start to use your marvering pad there, and rolling it out a little bit. Of course, like always, I'm starting with my edges, and then I'll work my way into the center. And heating a bead like this and really incorporating all of your cane into it can take, several minutes. I think this whole process took 5 to 10 minutes to flatten all of the cane down to where I got to the point right here of putting on my clear glass. At the end, it's a nice big heat because everything is already really low. It's not a lot of heat, but you're just smoothing everything out there at the end. And I don't know what I was thinking here. I thought I would try to get some of the blue glass, some of that double helix to oh, what is it called? To reduce in the flame. And then I changed my mind. So don't do that. But you can, do whatever you want. But I decided just move on. And so I just am going to grab my clear glass here. This is an 8 to 9 millimeter clear glass. And I'm just going to start to swipe the glass from the top all the way down to the bottom. I like to use this nice thick clear glass because it gives me, I can heat up a large amount, and that is allows me to easily stretch the glass down over the whole bead. If I'm using a small cane of clear, it's a little bit more difficult to swipe all the way down. Plus, you also want to make sure that your background is nice and solid, so when you add your clear, you're not distorting your pattern underneath. And of course, as always, when you are encasing, you just gently overlap your last layer. Now here, I'm just adding a couple layers where I think I need a little bit more glass, and where I don't want a little bit more glass, I'll just swipe some off. Okay, so now that we're done adding the clear, I just want to take a second to heat this one bottom edge and pull some of that clear glass down a little bit more over the color at the bottom. I think the top part right here looks fine, so I didn't do anything to the top part. But, it's all up to you and how the glass is working for you. It will depend on what you need to be doing with it. Okay, so now that we have all of the clear glass on here, I'm just going to smooth things down a little bit with my butter knife and start to heat everything up. And as I'm heating all this up, and you can give this a full blast of heat because the cane is encased and, nothing's going to harm it because you have all that clear glass around it. But what I do want to do is start gently holding my mandrel up at an angle so the bulk of the glass shifts from the center down to the bottom, and it gives me this really lovely pear-like shape that I just absolutely adore. So there's our almost final shape. I'm going to pull that bottom part up just a little bit so it's not so flat at the bottom, and I'm just going to use my butter knife to very gently pull that up a little bit, and I see the difference there and I like it. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to turn everything around, and this top part here really bummed me out. I was going to add some more glass there, but because the bead release broke, and that's like a huge red flag for me. All I want to do here is just taper the top and then move on. I'm done up there. I don't want to mess with it anymore and risk the chance of the bead release peeling off anymore. So that is done. All right, so now to finish things off, I'm just going to add some dots of clear on the areas where the cane is not showing. And I think this just gives it that beautiful finished look, and it just really looks beautiful how it picks up all the colors around these little clear dots. Now I did go ahead and finish this bead off and made it into an ornament bead by adding a couple more beads to it, which I am about to show you. So stick around. All right, now that I'm done adding all of my dots, I just want to make sure they are all heated and about halfway melted into the bead so nothing breaks off later on. And I'll add a few more dots to the very top, and yeah, that's it. There's our ornament bead, or at least the center of it. And I just think this looks great. It really looks beautiful in the sunlight, and the sparkle from the goldstone is just amazing. And like I said, I think that the it just looks good. Looks good. Okay, so there's the bead, and now let's go ahead and make the 2 spacer beads that go with this bead. So what I'm going to do here now is just heat my mandrel up a little bit, and I'm going to add 2 spacer beads of white right next to each other. A little sloppy on that one, but I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to add any more. I just want to keep these small, and they don't necessarily have to be identical. They can be a little bigger or smaller, but either way, I'm going to add a little bit of the Triton blue right on top of the white and melt those in. And in order for me to get both the beads nice and even on the mandrel here, I will heat one up all the way, and as it cools down, that's when I'm actually heating up the other bead. Okay. Gonna go ahead and give it a quick reduction in the heat here, and we will have our 2 little spacer beads. And I will show you how I put all those together at the beginning of this video. So if you've seen it, then you know. And on that note, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you soon in the dungeon.